I think many people in today's world are struggling from the same thing. We all feel like we're kind of on edge, we're anxious, and we feel like we can't fully unwind our mind after a hard day. We don't necessarily mind being on and being busy during a day, but then when we take that time at the end of the day to fully relax, have the hour, 2 hours, whatever it may be, to just unwind our minds and relax, we feel like we can't do it. We're always thinking about potentially picking up our phone and sending a message. We're thinking about something that we need to do tomorrow. We might be thinking about something we didn't do yesterday, or maybe just thinking about something that went wrong today. We're just constantly always got things to think about all the time, and it gets tiring. We need our time to relax. We want our time to relax. We put aside time to relax, but we just feel like we can't achieve it. And we always feel like we're being drawn into something. But when you think about it, it's actually no wonder that we kind of feel this way in everyday life. Like we carry around smartphones, a little rectangular device in our pockets, which we're constantly getting bombarded by messages that we feel compelled to reply to, or we might get the urge to message someone else. We've got constant news like notifications and flashes telling us about all the problems that are going around in the world. We've got social media where we feel like we can compare ourselves to other people, and even if these things we don't feel like we want to do consciously, they're things that we're drawn to, and they're things we know we could engage in. There's not only that as well, but we've now got loads of things we needed to do. Like you may have a job, you may have children, you might have a relationship, or you might just need to generally just upkeep the situation of your home. But either way, there's thousands of things to do every day that we constantly need to be aware of. And not only that as well, but when we leave the house, we go into busy streets of hundreds, thousands of people, loads of noises, lights, conversations, colourful clothing. There's just always things to think about and things to consider and things that jump into our senses. I was kind of cycling home the other day from work, and I was just cycling on my bike down a busy street. It was raining. It was night time, so the lights were really bright. There was loads of horns. It was just like a busy city street. And I was just thinking, like, it is quite overwhelming. It's a lot. It's quite stressful. But imagine someone from, say, 1,000 years ago, like an ancestral human, being put in this environment now. Think about it, because yes, of course, they had like extreme anxiety provoking situations, getting chased by a lion or something as similar as that. But they wouldn't have known how to react in a situation like that, where there's just constant bombardment coming from every single angle, infiltrating every single sense, bright lights, noises. There's just so much going on. And we kind of forget about it because we're walking around every day in our day-to-day life and we're used to this way of living now. But it's so much. There's so much senses when you think about our human brain and how it evolved to react to lots of different stimulus. All this stimulus at once, all the time. It's just very overactive for our nervous system. And surely it's got to be having an effect in one way or another. If you think about it, the environment in which our brain evolved in, not the environment we live in now, not where there's cities, phones, thousands of people, but like the vast plains of the savannah where the human brain actually evolved for environments like that, it would look completely different. Yes, they would have intense, acute periods of stress and danger where they might be chased by a lion or, their camp potentially could be on fire. They would obviously be in more danger in certain situations than we are in today, but generally there'd be so much less stimulation. Like they wouldn't be walking down the street and seeing bright lights, loads of noises. It would be quiet. There'd be vast plains. You could see far. There'd be grounding noises such as animal noises or campfires, but things would be so much more grounding. They wouldn't have all this vibrant stimulation that we now have all the time. They wouldn't be having advertisements to McDonald's in big red letters and a car beeping its horn there. It would be generally more relaxed, and that's kind of the way our brain evolved. It evolved from environments where generally there's less stimulation. Yes, there's huge amounts of stimulation occasionally where you're going to have to react in that moment. But generally, there'd be so much less stimulation, and we would have had so much more time to sit with our thoughts, to sit in peace, to actually just be more present in the moment, rather than always thinking about a million different things and being bombarded by a million different things all the time. Also, as well, like we think about some of the things we have to think about in this modern world. We have to think about logging into HMRC to find out about tax, and these things stress us out on top of all the other things we have to do. Life wouldn't have been like that back then. Yes, of course, they still would have had things to worry about. They would have had to worry about, ensuring that there was enough food for the day, ensuring that everyone was safe. Yeah, obviously more important things than what we worry about today. But we have just so many little things that build up on each other. And add that to all the stimulation we have every day, all the stress our phone gives us. We have so much stress and so much stimulation that we have to think about and take on all the time. And we don't think about it that way because it's just how we evolved. Well, it's the world we live in. It's not how we evolved, but the way we evolved was so much less stimulation. Yes, we would have acute, intense periods of physical threat, and obviously there'd be things to worry about. I'm not saying there wouldn't, but we wouldn't have all the things that we would have had to worry about today. So the world, the contrast and mismatch in worlds that we lived in then when our brain evolved and the world we live in now when our brain has evolved, two very different worlds. So understanding what's going on in the brain is really important to kind of understand this. So our brain evolved during times when novel stimulation had to be detected for safety. So if you heard something rustle in the bush, if you heard someone call your name, these are little things you'd need to pick up on. You need to be able to differentiate the novel things that you don't see happening all the time, which in an environment where there's not too much going on, where there's vast plains, you can see into the distance, things are quiet, you'd be able to detect something that was novel. And that's the environment our brain evolved for. So if you heard, say, for example, a rustle in the bush, it would quickly jump out to you. You detect it quickly, then you could go and investigate, and you could very quickly determine whether it was something that needed to be taken seriously. Maybe it was a predator, in which case yes. Maybe it was a prey, in which case yes, because it's an opportunity, or whether it was literally nothing at all. But either way, the situation will resolve itself quickly. And this is the important thing here. We evolved for a world in which the brain could resolve the issue fast. Like I said, if you had a problem, it could be detected, you could investigate, and then it would be resolved quickly. But today, we're constantly being bombarded by things where there's no resolution. So we could get a notification on our phone, we could open it, we could see what the notification is, but then there's something else, there's a reel, and then we scroll up and there's another reel, there's another video, there's another message, there's another website. Things just never end, and it's constantly resolving, and the brain is never able to shut it down. We evolved this level of detection and threat so that we could pay attention to something and then quickly solve it so that the brain could shut off and relax. But now we're constantly being bombarded by something else and something else and something else, and we can never fully resolve what's in front of us. And even if we do resolve it, there's always something else. So we're living in a world now where our brain is just hyper alert all the time because it's trying to figure out what's going on around us. Like it really is. Our brain is obviously evolved to help us. So it wants to understand what that notification is about. It wants to know what it means for our place in a group, for example. So when you get a like on, a social media post, your brain wants to find out, oh, who liked me? Is this important? Could this be important for my survival? Everything kind of relates back to this primitive part in our brain. Yes, obviously, many areas of our brain have evolved since these primitive areas, but these primitive areas in our brain still fundamentally drive our human behavior. So our brain is locking on to things that could be really important, and our brain wants to do that, but there's no resolution now. And it just goes on and on and on and on, and your brain can't make sense of it. So when you think about it, there's really no wonder that we can't fully switch off anymore. Our brain has evolved to look for novel stimulation because it could potentially be a danger or it could be an opportunity. Either way, it's something that we need to focus on. So when we have all this stimulation in today's world, our brain is going to focus on it. And if it doesn't feel like it's resolved the situation, which as we touched on, it never does, it's going to continue to want to pull it back up to the surface and investigate more. And it's not going to want to let it go. So this is the key thing about our modern world. There's so much going on all the time that we can't resolve all the issues. We can't do it. And our brain still believes it's in a world where all this information, all this new stimulus that we're getting all the time is important for survival. And even if it doesn't think all of it's important for survival, it doesn't want to risk the fact that some of it might be and it's not paying attention to it. So it will always do its best to try and resolve what's going on. So I think this is a crucial mismatch in the world, which I think we do need to understand.